Welcome to the Statler Financial Radio Show with Philip Statler. Have a question for the show or need assistance with your retirement plan? Give Philip a call today. 863-285-3815. 863-285-3815.
Do you know how much you can expect to receive from your Social Security benefits when you retire? How does filing early impact the amount you'll receive? How do your benefits change if you get divorced or if your spouse passes away? You might be surprised at some of the answers to these big questions about your Social Security benefits, and that's what we're going to talk about today. We are so glad you're here with us today on the Statler Financial Radio Show with Philip Statler. He is president and CEO of Statler Financial Services in Sebring. I am Jen Rezac alongside, and all about Social Security today, Philip, because a lot of people have a lot of questions about this. So I hope you're excited to start our show off today on a Social Security note.
Yeah, Social Security is always a big topic because it has some nuances that people need to understand, and it makes a big difference, Jim, because Social Security for a lot of folks, it's their main retirement income, and so you really don't want to get it wrong.
For sure. And here's the thing. A lot of people approaching retirement expect Social Security to be a significant source of income, yet nearly 78% of pre-retirees failed or barely passed a basic Social Security quiz. So really, Philip, it sounds like a lot of us are lacking in knowledge about a pretty major retirement program.
Yeah, and it is. And, and the one thing about Social Security, I always get the question, is it going to be here? And folks, think about it. If it wasn't here, our country would revolt, right? There'd be another Tea Party going on for sure. And so it's going to be here. Now, it may not look exactly like it looks today, but it's going to stick around because it is the main source for so many folks in retirement.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to go through some of the questions on this Social Security quiz and help give our listeners a bit of a reality check on this important benefit. So here's what I'm going to do. Actually, these are all true, false. So I'm going to go through, I've got a handful of them here. I've got about 6 of these that we'll go through. So let me ask the first question, and then we'll talk about the answer and what we need to be aware of here. So first one, Philip, I'll go ahead and ask you, true or false? In most cases, if I take benefits before full retirement age, they will be reduced for early filing. Is that true or false?
That is absolutely true.
All right.
And, so many people start taking Social Security at 62 because that's the first time they can.
Mm-hmm.
But however, they are taking a huge haircut when they do that. It's about a 10% per year penalty for the amount that you're taking out before 67. So, if you take it at 62, and it's probably not quite 50%, but it's a big haircut. Mm-hmm. And you got to live with that all the way through the rest of your life. And so people need to realize that every year you wait, you get a little bit more in your check.
Yeah. So one of those areas where we want to be strategic, we want to be smart about this. We don't just randomly start taking it at an arbitrary age. We want to put some thought into this, I think is the main message there, right?
Absolutely. Because the other thing folks that need to remember at 62, who's going to pay your health insurance? Typically you are, right?
Yeah.
If you wait at least till age 65, which is still early in today's numbers, because most folks, they have to take it as their full retirement age is 66 and some odd months, probably 8 months at this point. And so, until you get to that 65 age, then you qualify for Medicare.
Yep.
So then your insurance is taken care of. But prior to that, 62 to 65, you got to pay your own, health insurance. And that's a big dollar amount to have to hit every month.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, let's go to the next one. True or false? If I have a spouse and he passes away, I will receive both my full benefit and my deceased spouse's benefit. Is that true or false?
That is false.
Okay.
You don't get to get both of them. You get the higher of the two, which some people don't even realize that.
Mm-hmm.
They thought they just get to keep theirs, but no, you get the higher of the two. So if your spouse's Social Security benefit was higher than yours, then you'll start taking that benefit instead of yours. So at least you get the higher of the two.
And I'm guessing, Philip, this is where it makes sense, if you are married, to be strategic about those benefits, so you can potentially help one get a higher benefit or make the most out of their benefits. If you eventually get to keep the higher of the two, I'm guessing you want to make sure that you are as strategic as possible for that that larger benefit anyway, right?
Exactly. And a lot of times we look at it from that standpoint as a death benefit, which is, people don't think of it that way, but really and truly for a married couple, it's an important part of the equation that we maximize that Social Security for the remaining spouse.
All right. Important things to keep in mind there. One more here, and then we'll talk about a couple other things. But the money that comes out of my paycheck for Social Security goes into a specific account for me. It remains there earning interest until I begin to receive Social Security benefits. Is that true or false?
That is false, Jen. It goes into basically the general fund at this point. And the trust fund money goes into the trust fund money. However, it seems like, we've continued to borrow from the trust fund. So there's a big IOU there from the federal government that needs to be paid. And obviously, as far in debt as we are, we don't have the money to pay it. So that's where we're going to have to see some restructuring of Social Security somewhere in the near future.
So let's talk about this, Philip, as we are getting a bit of a reality check, clearing up some misconceptions about Social Security. Talk about how this fits into, you have a process called the core retirement design. Tell us a little bit about that and how Social Security decisions fit into this.
Well, our core retirement design, Jen, is built around three core principles. One is risk. How much risk do we have in our portfolio, and does it really match up with the amount of risk you should have in your portfolio based on your age, your risk tolerance, and how close you are or whether you're in retirement or not. Second is taxes, making sure that we are being as tax efficient as possible for the lifetime of your retirement, making sure that overall we're going to pay the least amount of taxes in the next 15, 20 years from that standpoint. And then thirdly, we look at income planning. And that's where Social Security really starts to fit into our planning process, is in the income plan. Because we will look at Social Security because it is one of the main sources that folks have for their retirement income. And so it plays a big part in that core retirement design where we design the income plan. So that's where it fits into that process. And folks, listen, if you are like 70% of the folks out there who do not have any kind of plan in place for your retirement, give us a call and let's walk through our core retirement design and let us help you design that retirement you always dreamed of. To do that, all simple, just give us a call at 863-285-3815. That's 863-285-3815 to schedule your core retirement analysis.
This is the Statler Financial Radio Show with Philip Statler. He is president and CEO of Statler Financial Services in Sebring. I am Jen Rezac alongside. So important to be aware of some of these ins and outs here. How do you talk to people about when to start claiming their Social Security benefits along with their other sources of retirement income?
Well, again, it comes down to planning, right? Looking at the plan, when are they going to retire? What other income do they have, and what other retirement assets do they have? Do we need to, if they're going to actually retire 62 or 63, or do we have to take Social Security? Is that do we need that cash flow, or can we get some cash flow from some another place and let Social Security improve and take it a little bit later? I mean, that's all part of our planning process, Jen, is to determine what's the best time for you to take out Social Security.
Yeah. And when it comes to Social Security, you don't know what you don't know. And unfortunately, as we've been discussing today, a lot of us don't know a lot about this. A lot of us are mismanaging this benefit. And yet, for some of our listeners today, Philip, when to start taking Social Security could literally be $1 million decision.
Yeah, it really could, So let me just walk you through a little math here on this, Jen. The average monthly Social Security benefit for a retired worker in 2024 is $1,907 a month. So if you do the math, that adds up to over $680,000 over a 30-year retirement. So that's 65 to 67 to 97. Maybe you don't think you'll live that long. And if you're married and you double that number, that's more than 1.3 million in Social Security benefits over that 30-year period for a married couple. Because there's a lot of variables that you need to consider before you start taking your Social Security. So here's the deal. In part of our core retirement design, a big part of that is income planning. And we look at Social Security and when's the best time to take it? What's the optimal for you? What's that makes the most sense for you? All that's part of our planning process. Give us a call at 863-285-3815 to schedule your core retirement analysis, where we'll make sure you're on the right path to the retirement you dreamed of. That's 863-285-3815, or you can go to our website at statlerfinancial.com, click the link there, and schedule a 30-minute phone call. It's that easy, Jen. Don't put it off.
Yep, absolutely. Don't put it off. As he said, that number one more time, 863-285-3815. This is the Statler Financial Radio Show with Philip Statler. We'll be back.
Turn your plans of yesterday into yes today. Don't wait another day for a routine checkup of your retirement plans. Call Statler Financial Services, 863-285-3815. That's 863-285-3815.
Do you actually read your financial statements, or do they get tossed in a drawer and forgotten about? You could be making an expensive mistake by not taking the time to look at them. If you're paying high fees in your retirement portfolio, it could be costing you tens of thousands of dollars or more over your lifetime. Imagine the difference an extra $100,000 could make in your retirement. Statler Financial Services can help you uncover any hidden fees in your retirement accounts. Call today to schedule a time to talk about your situation. 863-285-3815. That's 863-285-3815. When you're close to retirement, every dollar matters. Would you like to know where your money is going? Find out what kind of fees you're really paying. Statler Financial Services can help. 863-285-3815. 863-285-3815. Advisory services offered through Statler Financial Services, Inc., a registered investment advisory firm in the state of Florida.
Time to retire right. This is the Statler Financial Radio Show.
Thanks for joining us today on the Statler Financial Radio Show with Philip Statler. He is the president and CEO of Statler Financial Services in Sebring, and I am Jen Rezac alongside. Now, of course, we all know it's important to save for retirement. I think that's a pretty standard bit of knowledge, Philip. Everybody knows that. But here's the thing. How do we preserve what we've saved? That's the next piece. This is a big deal to most of us, with more than 90% of consumers believing it is important to protect their retirement assets. But of course, the challenge is a lot of people don't really know exactly how to do that. So Philip, when we talk about protected households, we're talking about families who have something like a pension or an annuity, something like that to supplement what they'll get from Social Security in retirement. And I wonder if you could just talk about why it's so important that we find a way to find that protected income in our retirement.
Well, I think that, if we go back in time, and I've talked about this before, I'm sure, on my show and on my workshops, but it used to be that we had a three-legged stool, right? You would have income from Social Security, and that was about a third of what you needed. Then you'd have money from your pension, and that'd be about a third. And then you'd have another leg where you would create income yourself from your portfolios that you had saved up over time. And over time, what's happened is the pension leg has gone away for a lot of people, and they've got to create that themselves now. And so it becomes important because as we try to budget, we need to make sure that the income we have is going to be there. No matter what happens in the stock market or bond market, no matter what happens in our economy, we need to make sure that that income is going to be there month in and month out, so that we can budget our expenses. And so that's why it's important that we make sure that we have that in place, just so that we've got that protected income and know that it's going to be there today, next week, next year, 10 years from now.
So important to be thinking about that. And I wonder if we could help people understand a little bit more about whether their retirement income is protected, because I think for a lot of people, this sounds really good, that whole idea of that income being there, knowing it's going to be there. But sometimes our money might be in a place that's not quite as protected, or it's not quite what we thought. So how do you see this play out? What are some common places where we might have our retirement money, maybe it isn't protected?
There's a lot of those out there, right? The stock market is probably the biggest one that I can talk about is that if you have money in the stock market, it's not protected. Mm-hmm. I mean, a lot of folks saw a big decline last year in their retirement savings because the market's down. The bond market is not protected. The commodities market, anything that says market after it, is not a protected type of investment. It's going to go up. It's going to go down. You don't know where it's going to be when you need it. Probably the biggest example I can use there is in 2009, I sat down with some folks and they told me in January 1st of 2008, before the huge downturn in the market, they had $1.5 million. And when I sat with them, they were sitting around 700,000. And that's the only place they were taking money out of. That's the only place they had their money, was right there. And back in January of 2008, they were taking about 5%, and they didn't change anything. So that means in January of 2009, they were really taking out probably 10% of what they had. Mm-hmm. And so that's an area where that wasn't protected income.
Wow.
At the rate they were going to deplete their funds significantly quicker than they had anticipated. So that's a one of my big examples of why the stock market shouldn't be your sole source of income. It needs to be the growth bucket, not the income bucket.
And that's such a good example there, Philip, of how this could potentially play out. When you look at some of these scenarios, this is why you walk people through this core retirement design process. Talk a little bit about what this process looks like for helping us identify some of those weak spots, some of these areas where we might run into trouble with our retirement income.
Our core retirement design was developed to help people really design that retirement they always dreamed of, by starting at the basics of looking at how much risk they have in their current portfolio versus how much risk they should have in their portfolio based on how long they have to retirement, and things of what their risk tolerance is, all those type of things where we assign a numeric number to that portfolio. Second, we want to look at taxes. Make sure that we're putting ourselves in a position to pay the least amount of taxes, not necessarily today, but over our retirement lifetime. And lastly, we want to make sure we've got an income plan in place that we can rely on to know that we have sufficient amount of assets to cover our expenses over our lifetime. We don't want to get down to age 90 and find out that we're about out of money. We want to make sure that mathematically it works as long as we're going to be alive. Give us a call to schedule your core retirement design at 863-285-3815. That's 863-285-3815.
Talking today with Philip Statler. He is president and CEO of Statler Financial Services in Sebring. Let's keep talking about, Philip, some challenges we might be facing if our retirement income turns out it's maybe money instead of protected income. That could potentially spell trouble for us in our future.
It could, just like the folks I talked about before we took the little break there. Mm-hmm. It could be a big deal, right? That it could be a huge, monumental issue. If we're talking about maybe money, then that means maybe it's up, maybe it's down. If it's down, when you need to start taking money out of it, that can be a problem because that makes it disappear quicker, right? If it's going down and we're taking money out, that's not a good timing. And so we want that protected income. Now, how do you get that protected income? Well, one of the ways that we've seen to get it is by using some annuities. Now, annuities seem to get a bad rap, but they're there to produce income and to protect your savings. Now, let's be clear. You never want to take everything out of one place and put it into an annuity. You never want all your money in any one place. You don't want it all in the stock market. Why would you put it all in an annuity? You don't. You need the balance. And that's exactly why we put together that core retirement design, which has the income plan, because that helps us determine what needs to be in what buckets. That's where I think folks need to really understand where their income's coming from and to make sure that income's going to be around when they truly need it.
If we are interested in a source of protected income in retirement, we still need to figure out the right way to do this, the right option for our family. And sometimes we might already have things in place, but can you do something like an annuity analysis or maybe help us explore some of the different options or maybe even an analysis of something we've already got to see if it still makes the most sense for us?
Absolutely. I mean, that's part of that core retirement design is really analyzing where people are right now. Because if you don't know where you are, you don't know if you're in the right place or if you need to make changes. And so this really gives us that broad spectrum of what do I currently have and what does that mean to me today? And will it meet my needs down the road? That's the big deal there. So we analyze that. We analyze annuities. We'll analyze stock portfolios, all of those things to determine if any changes need to be made, right, if we're in the right place. So I think that's what people need to understand is it's not a one size fits all. It's what do we need? And let's go build the plan to make sure that it's going to meet your needs down the road.
Right. And we also don't want to forget that Social Security is still a big part of this discussion on retirement income. Just talk about that also, where that fits in and how we need to think about our entire income picture before we decide when to start claiming those benefits or turn that income stream on.
Well, it is just that, Jen. It is a stream of income that's going to be there no matter what happens. And so it's a big part of our income planning process. Now, what folks need to understand, and we don't think about it when we're in the middle of planning a lot of times, but we need to understand what happens if one spouse passes away when it comes to Social Security benefits. That can be a big deal. And so we try to look at that and shine a light on the different ways to look at Social Security benefits. Everybody looks at it as an income leg, right? That's where my income's coming from. And that's true. But when one spouse passes away, it kind of, in a way, becomes a death benefit to the remaining spouse. Right. It is still income, but we want to make sure that we look at it in that light as well. What happens if a spouse passes away? What's that going to do to their income and their taxes? Because what folks don't know is a lot of times your taxes will go up if you have the same amount of income and now you're single. So those are all areas that we look at, Jen, when we're doing this planning, because like I said a minute ago, one size doesn't fit all. What works for one couple may not work for somebody else. That's why we go through the process of putting together the plan, because the plan provides the roadmap to where you want to get to in retirement.
Talk a little bit about putting together that core retirement design, how that can help all of these different pieces kind of fit together for people who have questions about their retirement income.
Absolutely. We talk about risk is a big deal, especially when the ups and downs of the market happen. Hey, when the market's just going up, nobody cares about risk. But it's when the market's going down that people really start to focus on risk, and we need to understand what that is. And so that's a core part of that design process. Secondly, we want to make sure that folks are paying the least amount of taxes over their lifetime and their family's lifetime. And so we build that into our process as well. And lastly, we put together an income plan. We want people to be comfortable and confident that their money is going to last as long as they need it to. And so that's all part of our core retirement design. It's simple. All it takes to get started is a 30-minute phone call. Give us a call at 863-285-3815 to schedule your 30-minute core retirement analysis. That's 863-285-3815.
Talking today with Philip Statler. He is president and CEO of Statler Financial Services in Sebring. Now, most people believe it's important to take steps to help protect their retirement savings. That's the good news, but it's not all of the story. We'll continue talking about this on the other side of the break. Stay with us.
Turn your plans of yesterday into yes today. Don't wait another day for a routine checkup of your retirement plans. Call Statler Financial Services, 863-285-3815. That's 863-285-3815.
It's nice when you get everything on your list in one place, isn't it? Philip Statler at Statler Financial Services agrees. That's why he offers comprehensive retirement planning all under one roof. You shouldn't have to go one place for information about tax planning, another for estate planning, and another for retirement income planning. That's why Statler Financial Services was started. Philip wanted to build a company that could help families with all aspects of their retirement. Statler Financial is more than just convenient, they're knowledgeable and experienced. To set up a meeting with Philip Statler and his team to talk about your retirement plan, all of it, call 863-285-3815. That's 863-285-3815. Statler Financial Services, one stop for a wealth of retirement solutions. 863-285-3815. Advisory services offered through Statler Financial Services, Inc., a registered investment advisory firm in the state of Florida.
I want to help you understand some things. Number one, timing of your RMD, because they could potentially push you into a higher tax bracket. Imagine how fast your savings could shrink if you rack up penalties along with taking regular withdrawals and paying taxes.
Welcome back to the Statler Financial Radio Show with Philip Statler and co-host Jen Rezac.
Thanks for joining us today on the Statler Financial Radio Show with Philip Statler. He is president and CEO of Statler Financial Services in Sebring. I'm Jen Rezac alongside, and most people believe it's important to take steps to help protect their retirement savings. That's good news. But it's not all of the story because, Philip, unfortunately, people are still making assumptions about their financial future and they're failing to see some of the gaps in their plan or their strategy. The Center for Retirement Research at Boston College found that 28% of all households wrongly assume that they are prepared for retirement. And get this, Philip, 32% of high-earning households are the most overconfident. So overconfidence can actually be a bit of a concern here.
Well, it can, and I can get that, right? Because those higher earning folks, what they don't probably take into consideration is they spend more.
Yeah.
Right? They're used to that lifestyle of spending because they're high earners. And so if they don't have the right plan in place, or they've not really saved enough to compensate for their high lifestyle, then that could be a problem.
Yeah.
And I can see that a lot of people, that 28%, I can see that, people don't always prepare properly for retirement.
Yeah. So what should we consider to help make sure we aren't making too many assumptions with how long our savings will last, or just assumptions on any of it as it relates to trying to prepare for retirement?
Here's the deal. I wouldn't want to make any assumption that my money's going to last my lifetime without putting pencil to paper, right? That is dangerous within itself. And so I think it starts with making sure you've got a plan, because if you don't have a plan, then you don't have a roadmap. If you don't have a roadmap, you don't know how you're going to get there. Mm-hmm. And so that's the key things that I look at, is that we need to have a plan in place to make sure that we can get from here to 90, 95, 100. And I get pushback. Believe me, we're not going to live that long.
Sure.
We don't know that, right? And statistically, and I think the numbers are probably a husband and wife. Statistically, there's about I think better than a 50%, 60% chance that one of them is going to make it to 90.
Wow. Yeah.
And so, if that's the case, then you need to be prepared to live to that ripe old age of 100. Because now, if you look at the obituaries, Jen, it's not unusual to see 105, 103. So with the modern medicine, who knows how long we'll be around?
Yeah, that's such a good point. And, when we talk about this whole idea of having a plan, here's another stat. Only about 25% of Americans say they do have a written financial plan. So that means most of us don't have a specific financial plan. And Philip, I think for a lot of people, they're not quite sure what we mean when we talk about having an income plan for retirement, because we might have a 401k, we might have some savings, we might know we've got Social Security. So we say, okay, I have a plan, but explain what all goes into that retirement income plan, what you really mean by that when we talk about having a plan.
So a retirement income plan is a plan to determine where your income is going to come from during retirement. Now, we know that one leg is going to be Social Security, and so that becomes part of our leg, right? Mm-hmm. And so we look at it and say, okay, how much do I need in retirement to spend? And that's another whole conversation of what's my budget going to look like? How much am I going to need on a monthly basis? But we know that Social Security will be part of it. Mm-hmm. If we get a pension will be part of it. But what's left, if we don't have a pension, then between Social Security and what we need, that's a gap. And between Social Security and a pension and what we need, that's a gap. So it all comes down to we got to fill the gap. And the gap gets filled within the plan. And that plan basically says, hey, look, this is where I'm going to take my money from. I'm going to take it from this specific account for this many years. And then I'm going to go to this bucket over here. And that bucket is going to last me so long. So we basically put it down. This is where the money is coming from year 1 through 5, 6 to 10. Where's it coming from? And so that allows us to know where the money's coming from, but it also allows the rest of our accounts to grow. And we know that through that growth, that we'll be able to then help increase our income so that we keep up with inflation. And that's all the things that we do when it comes to our core retirement design. And it always concerns me, Jen, when I see that only 25 to 30% of the folks out there actually have a retirement income plan written down that they can go to and see if they're on track. And so our core retirement design puts that into place. And we monitor it, check it on an annual basis to make sure that we're following that plan and it's doing what it's supposed to do. Give us a call at 863-285-3815 to get started on your core retirement design. That's 863-285-3815.
Talking today with Philip Statler. He is president and CEO of Statler Financial Services in Sebring. I am Jen Rezac alongside. Now, Philip, we're talking a little bit about this whole idea of protected income and the fact that so many people don't have a plan. I appreciate you kind of spelling out what that means. Let's just keep talking here. How can you help someone find more confidence with their income picture in retirement? Are there any other strategies to talk about, or what else would you add on to this conversation about looking for those sources of protected income?
I think you look at protected income, and it really does boil down to just having that income plan in place, because that lets you know where your income's coming from. Now, is it all protected? Not necessarily, but a good part of it is protected income, because that's what you're going to rely on a regular basis. And so you may have different streams of income. People will have what they call a real estate investment trust that kicks off income. You may have a dividend portfolio that kicks off income. You may have an annuity that kicks off income. So income can come from different places. Whether or not it's protected or not, that's a different story. And that's what we dive into in our core retirement design.
So a lot of people want, as we talk about this conversation today, so many people want this protected income because it sounds like a good thing. They're just not quite sure how to get it. Let's talk about helping people learn more about the options for protected income, and possibly, Philip, this whole idea of a second opinion. Maybe people do have some different, some different policies in place, some different accounts in place. They're just not quite sure if they've done enough or if it all fits together in the right way. Doing that review of what somebody already has. Talk about how that fits into this as well, so we don't feel like we're starting from scratch when we're trying to put together our plan.
So when it comes to protected income, there's a couple ways you can get it. They all pretty much deal with annuities, right? Annuities give us, that's exactly what they were designed for, is to produce income. So you can do what they call an immediate annuity. You're going to trade money for an income stream that's going to last you your lifetime. And that's sometimes good. When interest rates were really low, what didn't make much sense. Interest rates coming back up, it's something that you may want to look at, though, to see if that might work for you. The other thing that you look at in the annuity world is annuities will have what they call an income bonus plan to them. So they will actually produce income for you that you cannot outlive. That's protected income. And you can elect a joint protected income, right? So that you'll get it as long as one of you are alive. Now let's talk a little bit about some of the disadvantages when we look at annuities is if we're counting on them for income, that means you can't just go dip into them and say, well, I need $25,000 out of that account this year. We're relying on them for income. And so, we're basing it on their surrender charges. There's, if we take extra money out early, there can be expenses there. Also, they're, like banks, they're insured by FDIC insured. That doesn't happen with annuities. You're relying on that insurance company to provide that guarantee. And so you need to understand all of those pieces. And that's why it's important when you're dealing with annuity companies that you're looking at A-rated companies, not B and B plus companies, because it does make a difference when we're looking at their ability to cover their claims. And so, there's pluses and minuses to everything. There's the pluses to the stock market is, hey, you've got the opportunity to make some good money. The downside is you can lose more. And so everything comes with pluses and minuses. That's why you shouldn't use just one vehicle. You need to have a balanced approach to make sure you've got some growth, some income, some protected, some maybe money. You need all of those buckets full in order to have the retirement you always dreamed of. I would just say that as we kind of close out this segment, Jen, that we worked hard when we started designing this core retirement design process. And we feel like it meets the needs of everybody out there because it looks at the risk, it looks at taxes, it looks at income. And those are three main areas that retirees need to focus on when they head into retirement. And so I'd love to have that conversation with you. 30 minutes. You can ask me whatever questions that you'd like to. We'll ask you questions to see if we're a good fit, if we can help you. Because if I can't help you, I don't want to waste your time. If I can, I'll let you know. And what the next steps really are in our process. Give us a call at 863-285-3815. That's 863-285-3815 to start our core retirement design.
That number one more time, 863-285-3815. Get those questions answered about that core retirement design process that Philip and his team can walk you through today. One more time, that number, 863-285-3815. And we always invite you to check out the website and the great resources available at statlerfinancial.com. Talking today with Philip Statler. He is president and CEO of Statler Financial Services in Sebring on protected income, why this matters for you and your retirement. But we've got some more insights from Philip coming up on the other side of the break, so stay with us. The Statler Financial Radio Show continues in just a moment.
Do you have a retirement plan but would like a second opinion? Call Philip Statler today, 863-285-3815. Statler Financial Services, 863-285-3815. Do you actually read your financial statements, or do they get tossed in a drawer and forgotten about? You could be making an expensive mistake by not taking the time to look at them. If you're paying high fees in your retirement portfolio, it could be costing you tens of thousands of dollars or more over your lifetime. Imagine the difference an extra $100,000 could make in your retirement. Statler Financial Services can help you uncover any hidden fees in your retirement accounts. Call today to schedule a time to talk about your situation. 863-285-3815. That's 863-285-3815. When you're close to retirement, every dollar matters. Would you like to know where your money is going? Find out what kind of fees you're really paying. Statler Financial Services can help. 863-285-3815. 863-285-3815. Advisory services offered through Statler Financial Services, Inc., a registered investment advisory firm in the state of Florida.
Thanks for joining us today. This is the Statler Financial Radio Show. I am Jen Rezac, happy to be here alongside Philip Statler. He's president and CEO of Statler Financial Services. And Philip, you know there are things you're not supposed to bring up at a dinner party, and I don't know if Joyce has to remind you things. There are times when Jeff and I are going somewhere, and I'm like, please don't. Here's a couple things to please not bring up when we get there. And there are a couple topics that are just uncomfortable. You don't even want to talk about them with your kids or your financial professional or your spouse. But these are things that are important to think about as you get close to retirement. So, Philip, we're just going to have to bite the bullet. We're going to dig into our top 5 for this week. It comes from Forbes. 5 most taboo topics in retirement. So are you ready for this, Philip?
I think I am. I'm assuming these are things nobody wants to talk about. Nobody wants to think they even exist, right?
Right. We just want to ignore it, but we have to talk about them. So here we go. Number 5, because we go backwards. We go from 5 down to number 1 on our top 5. Number 5 on our list is your mental health in retirement. Tell me a little bit about what you've seen with people struggling, Philip, with maybe a loss of identity or isolation after they leave their careers behind, because we identify who we are by our job. It's really hard, isn't it?
We do. That's so true. And so I think that's one of the things that you're right. Nobody wants to talk about that. Where people, I've seen people that have retired and, within a year, they're in a funk. They just don't really know what to do, or they're unhappy there. And they think that, okay, I'm going to go back to work. And a lot of them they'll just start to go back to work. But I think back to, my uncle. My uncle, he worked, I think he was like 70 or 72 before he finally retired.
Yeah.
This is very true. I see it. I've seen it with some of my uncles. I've seen it with some of my clients. They feel like when they retire, or if they quit working, they're going to die.
Mm-hmm. Gosh.
And I think that weighs on them to keep doing something. And so, and we have this conversation with people with our clients that haven't retired yet, they're starting to work on that. And my question to them is always, okay, so what is your plan to occupy your time when you retire? Because that does become the problem, right? Is now you don't have to get up at 5 o'clock to be at work by 7 or 7:30. So you have no schedule, and that all plays into depression, mental health, that whole thing. And so it's an area that people need to be proactively working against. And the way to do that is not just have a financial plan, but have a time plan. What are you going to do when you retire?
Philip, let's talk about the next one on our list. We are working our way backwards. So number 4 on our list of taboo topics in retirement is divorce. Over the past 30 years, the divorce rate after age 50 has doubled in the U.S., and this is something that causes emotional and financial upheaval at any time in your life. But talk about the challenges if this happens as you get close to retirement and all of the financial things going on at that time of your life.
Well, it is difficult no matter when you have a divorce. It's difficult in the family. It's difficult in the people involved. But especially, heading into retirement or slightly after retirement, because you are a team, and that team, especially if you put together any kind of retirement plan or income plan, it's based on the incomes that are there, and it's based on the two people that are married. And so if we have a divorce, then now we've got to split assets. One spouse, if they're relying just on Social Security, is probably going to have a lot less. So it just is a major upheaval. And then so the other part of that is that there's some things out there that a lot of times people don't think about when it comes to, well, the husband has, or let's just say one spouse has all the retirement assets in their name, right? They worked, all the IRAs or 401ks are theirs, and you can't split them. A lot of times people think, well, I can't split them without tax consequences, or they don't realize there is a tax consequence if you do split them. So I'll just throw this out there so that people know that there are ways around the taxability of splitting retirement accounts. And it's called a QDRO, which stands for Qualified Domestic Relations Order. And it's a QDRO. And I would say divorce attorneys should be up on this process and availability, and the process now of speaking with somebody that is one of the things that they're looking at. Is they're going to need to they're going through a divorce, they're going to have a QDRO, and they're going to have to create some income from that. So it's tough no matter when you do it. In retirement, it's just like been together for so long, and now it's a huge change and a huge obstacle to overcome.
Certainly, some tough things to think about here. Talking today with Philip Statler. He is president and CEO of Statler Financial Services, going through our top 5 list of taboo topics in retirement. 863-285-3815 is the number to call to reach Philip and the team at Statler Financial Services if you're looking for a little guidance on some of these tough areas of retirement. That's 863-285-3815. Number 3 on the list is religion, and I'll give a quick example of how this might come into play. We won't spend a lot of time on this one, Philip, but it might not make financial sense for someone to tithe, but it's important for them to give something to their church. How do you handle making financial recommendations while also respecting someone's religious beliefs?
Well, Jen, religion, when it comes to their money, it is one of those fine lines you have to walk. I mean, I know, we've always believed in tithing and that type of thing for our church. Here's where I've had some tough discussions with clients because they're working and all of a sudden they retire, and in retirement, our income declines. And so they want to keep giving at the same level they were when they were working. And that can have a damaging impact to their income plan down the road. Now, it's great for the church or the organization, but it can be detrimental to the retiree. Because here's what they don't realize. Yep, Social Security, that's income. Their pension, if they have a pension, that's income. But that other leg that they're drawing money from, that may or may not actually be income. It could just be savings, right? And so it's kind of like already tax money. It's already tithes money. So, sometimes it's hard to get people to see that and realize that because of the emotional tie there. And so it's something we have to walk carefully through, but as the financial coach, retirement coach, and the fiduciary person in the relationship, I've got to ask the hard questions and walk people through the answer and the impact that that's going to bring to them.
Going down to number 2 on our list of taboo topics. Again, it won't spend a lot of time on this because we just have a few minutes left. But number 2 on the list is relationships. Retirement has an impact on your relationship with your spouse, your kids, your grandkids. How important is it to talk about some of this stuff, Philip? Setting boundaries when it comes to the time you're going to spend watching the grandkids or how much time you're going to spend with your spouse when you're both home all the time.
That's true. And it's got to be more than conversation. You got to take action, right? So you're right. So if if your family all lives in the same town, then all of a sudden you've retired and now, the grandkids are left at your doorstep all the time for you to take care of and watch. And so your kids can go do whatever. And for a while, right, we love it. right? So, hey, they're our grandkids. We're spending a lot of time with them. And so I get it, but you got to set up some boundaries for what that's going to look like for our kids and grandkids. The other part, though, is our spouse. We've been working up until retirement, so we're each away from each other for at least 8-10 hours a day.
Mm-hmm.
And so now we're retired, and now we're spending, a lot more time under the same roof. And that can be challenging. That's why we go back to two before this, divorce, right? So this can be a reason that one pops up at this point in the relationship, is because now we have no diversion. We're together. And so that becomes the problem. And so we need to have our time. I tell people, not only do we need an income plan, we need a time plan.
Yeah.
And that's part of what needs to happen there in retirement.
That's right. Working our way through the top taboo topics from Forbes magazine, and number one on the list is money. And Philip, this is ironic because we talk about it all the time here on this show, but talk about why some people see money as a taboo topic for retirement, and how do you help people get answers when they worry that they're just being nosy, or maybe they're asking the wrong questions when it comes to money in retirement?
Well, think about it this way. Husband and wife, do they really have that conversation of, do we have enough to retire? Or is it just something we do, right? We're 62, I'm retiring. I'm 67, I'm retiring. Or do we have that discussion? And so nobody wants, or I won't say nobody, a lot of folks don't want to have that discussion of, do I have enough? Because they're afraid of the answer. And so I think that's a question that more people need to have sooner rather than later. So what's sooner? Well, I'm going to say, man, if you're 50 years old and you've not had that discussion, you've not sat down with a financial professional to say, what am I going to need? You've not put together that financial plan or that retirement plan at age 50. You need to do that. You need to know, how much, what's it look like? What am I going to have at retirement based on what I'm doing now? So that you know that you're ready to retire, that the money is not going to be the issue for not retiring. So often we don't want to ask. The kids don't want to ask the parents, are you sure? Do you have enough money to retire? Well, kids aren't going to ask their parents that. It's just not going to happen. And so I think that's why money is the number one thing, is because nobody wants to ask the question. Everybody assumes that if you're retiring, that you have enough. And that's not, I can tell you from experience and what I see, that's not always the case. Hey folks, if these top 5 taboos are on your list of things, or if we can help in any other way, that's what we're here for. We are an independent sounding board for you, to help you prepare for retirement. Give me a call at 863-285-3815. That's 863-285-3815. Give us a call today and let's get started on your retirement.
You've been listening to the Statler Financial Radio Show. Remember that number, 863-285-3815. That's all the time we have for this week, but we'll talk to you next time.
Information provided during the Statler Financial Radio Show is for illustrative purposes only and does not constitute investment, tax, or legal advice. Information has been obtained from sources that are deemed to be reliable, but their accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed. Always consult with a qualified investment, legal, or tax professional before taking any action. Annuity guarantees are based solely on the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing company. Individuals should thoroughly review the contract for specific details of the product features and costs. Income payments and withdrawals from deferred annuities are generally taxable as ordinary income in the year they are taken. All investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. No strategy is guaranteed to be successful.
This radio show is a paid placement.